This story pulls back the flea-ridden blanket on what it really meant to get a good night's sleep in the Middle Ages. Spoiler: it was loud, itchy, freezing, and crowded. We'll explore how peasants slept on straw stuffed with moldy hay, how entire families, plus chickens, goats, and lice, often shared the same bed, and why nighttime was considered spiritually dangerous, with demons, thieves, and chamber pots lurking in the dark. The black humor settles in with stories of sleep interrupted by snoring livestock, howling wolves, or your neighbor's midnight prayers. There were no pillows, no pajamas, and definitely no such thing as personal space. Monks had scheduled night wake ups for chanting, and nobles sometimes slept sitting upright to prevent death. By the end, modern mattresses will feel like thrones, and your worst night's sleep will seem like a spa retreat. Imagine, if you will, a night in the Middle Ages. Forget the romanticized tapestries and hushed chambers of Hollywood's historical dramas. We're talking about something far less glamorous, something profoundly, hilariously uncomfortable. Let's begin with the bed, or rather, the lack of a bed as we understand it. For the vast majority of the medieval population, the peasants, the laborers, the backbone of society, the bed was a far cry from the plush mattress and supportive springs we enjoy today. Think instead of a simple pallet of straw, perhaps a thin layer of rushes, or even just bare earth. This wasn't a neatly bundled, commercially produced bale of straw. This was the kind of straw collected from the fields, still smelling faintly of hay and possibly containing the odd stray seed or insect. Imagine the uneven surface, the scratchy texture against your skin, the unsettling sensation of straw shifting and rustling beneath you as you toss and turn. Comfort was certainly not a primary consideration. Now picture the scene: a small, dimly lit room, perhaps shared with several family members, children, parents, grandparents, all crammed together in a tight huddle for warmth and, frankly, survival. It wasn't uncommon for livestock to share this cramped quarters, too. A pig nestled against your mother, a goat sleeping at your feet, perfectly normal. Personal space, an alien concept, laughable even, in the bustling medieval bedroom. The sheer proximity of bodies, the constant shifting and readjusting, the inevitable accidental nudges and elbows. It paints a picture of utter chaos, not conducive to peaceful sleep. The smells? Let's not even begin. The lingering scent of sweat and unwashed bodies would mingle with the earthy aroma of the straw, possibly mixed with the less pleasant odors of uncleaned rooms and the lingering evidence of recent bodily functions. Add to this the pungent aroma of animals, their sweat, their breath, their other contributions. In short, the olfactory experience of a medieval bedroom would be enough to clear a room in a modern, perfume-obsessed world. It's not an exaggeration to say it would be an assault on the senses. And then there's the matter of pests: fleas, lice, bed bugs. These weren't occasional annoyances. They were constant companions. They thrived in the warm, dimly lit, straw-filled beds, breeding and multiplying with abandon. Imagine the relentless itching, the constant scratching, the sleepless nights punctuated by the infuriating bites. No antihistamines, no pesticides, merely the grim acceptance of a life lived in close proximity with tiny parasitic tormentors. One can only imagine the sheer misery of this, with the itch constantly breaking the sleep of the unfortunate individuals sharing their beds with these infestations. But the straw pallet wasn't the summit of medieval comfort. Some slightly more affluent individuals might enjoy the luxury of a rudimentary bed frame, perhaps made of wood, supporting their straw mattress, perhaps a thin blanket, perhaps a homespun sheet, but certainly nothing remotely resembling our modern notions of bedding. Still, this was far from the fluffy down comforter and temperature regulating sheets of the modern age. Even among the wealthier classes, comfort was a relative term. This wasn't just about personal hygiene or simple comfort. The very concept of hygiene and personal space, as we understand it, simply did not exist. Modern ideals of clean bedding, fresh air, and personal space stand in stark contrast to the realities of medieval sleeping arrangements. The average medieval person wouldn't have even conceived of the idea of a private room, let alone a bed, as a sanctuary of personal comfort. Even the concept of a bed as a distinct piece of furniture was less defined than today. We tend to think of the bed as a singular, defined object. However, in the medieval period, a bed was something more fluid. It wasn't unusual for multiple generations to share a single bed, regardless of age or gender. This was largely a matter of necessity, driven by the need for warmth and the limitations of space within cramped, poorly insulated dwellings. A family's bed was a central part of the living space, often simply a designated area on the floor rather than a freestanding piece of furniture. So, what was a typical night like? Imagine a cacophony of sounds: the snoring of your family members, the snuffling and grunting of pigs or goats sharing your sleeping space, the occasional yelp from a dog, the creaking of a poorly built house settling for the night. The howling of wolves in the distance might provide a melancholic backdrop to the whole nocturnal scene. Outside, the wind might whistle through cracks in the walls, adding to the general symphony of discomfort. The night was far from silent. It was a constant barrage of noise, a very loud lullaby compared to the hushed tranquility many of us expect in our modern bedrooms. And then there were the superstitions. The Middle Ages were a time steeped in religious beliefs and folklore, and nighttime was particularly associated with the supernatural. Many believed that the soul left the body during sleep, leaving the individual vulnerable to malevolent spirits, demons, or witches. The darkness itself was a source of fear, a realm where evil forces were believed to roam freely. To counteract these anxieties, people might resort to prayers, amulets, or protective charms. Sleep was not just a matter of physical rest, but also a spiritual vulnerability, a time when one's soul was potentially exposed. This constant fear and uncertainty was yet another unwelcome guest in the medieval bedroom. It is easy to romanticize the past, but the reality of a night in a medieval straw bed is vastly different from our modern sleep experience. It was often a cold, cramped, noisy, and infested affair, far from the peaceful respite we take for granted. The next sections will explore other aspects of medieval sleep further, illuminating the stark contrast between then and now, and emphasizing how sleep wasn't merely a physiological necessity, but an experience profoundly shaped by social, cultural, and religious contexts. As we delve deeper, you'll appreciate the extraordinary evolution of sleep from the humble, often infested straw bed to the technology laden havens of modern bedrooms. This journey through the history of sleep will reveal that the things that kept medieval individuals from getting a good night's rest would likely keep even a particularly grumpy modern sleeper awake. The air hung heavy. thick with the smells already described, but now punctuated by a symphony of sounds that would drive a modern insomniac to the brink of madness. Forget the gentle lull of nature sounds on a sleep app. This was a cacophony of discomfort. First, there was the snoring, a low, guttural rumble emanating from various corners of the room, a chorus of exhausted breaths punctuated by the occasional snort or gasp. This wasn't the polite, soft snoring of a well rested individual. This was the heavy, labored breathing of people worn down by a day of backbreaking labor, their bodies protesting against the meager rest they were receiving. Children, nestled amongst the adults, added their own high pitched snuffles and whimpers to the sonic tapestry, a counterpoint to the deeper tones of their parents. Then came the animals. If you were lucky enough, or unlucky enough, depending on your perspective, to share your dwelling with livestock, their nighttime contributions to the soundscape were substantial. The rhythmic grunting of a pig, rooting contentedly in its straw bed near the hearth, once provided a low, persistent drone. A goat, perhaps tied to a post near the bed, might bleat occasionally, a plaintive cry cutting through the other noises. Chickens, if kept indoors for the night, would contribute their own frantic chirping and clucking, a chaotic counterpoint to the more predictable sounds of the larger animals. Dogs, ever vigilant, would let out the occasional bark or whine, their alertness a stark contrast to the slumbering humans. These weren't the pampered pets of today. These were working animals whose presence was a practical necessity rather than a comforting companionship. Adding to the animal orchestra was the creaking and groaning of the house itself. Medieval buildings weren't built for quiet, they were built for survival. The timbers groaned under the weight of the thatch roof. The walls settled with a series of ominous cracks and pops, and the floorboards protested with each shift in weight. These weren't subtle sounds, they were a constant reminder of the fragility of the dwelling, a physical manifestation of the precariousness of life itself. The wind, whistling through the gaps in the walls and under the ill-fitting doors, added a high-pitched whine to the mix, a constant eerie companion. Rain, when it fell, transformed the roof into a giant drum, each drop a tiny percussion beat against the straw thatch. Beyond the confines of the dwelling lay a whole other world of noise. Depending on the location of the house, the sounds of the village itself, the barking of dogs from neighboring homes, the occasional cry of a child, the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer would filter through the night. Midnight prayers, recited by devout neighbors, might offer a moment of somber peace amidst the chaos, a testament to the pervasive influence of religion in even the most mundane aspects of life. However, the sounds of nature were often far less serene. The howl of wolves in the distance, a primal cry that echoed across the fields, was a constant reminder of the dangers lurking just beyond the flickering light of the hearth. This wasn't the romanticized howl of a lonely creature. It was a warning, a chilling reminder of the harsh realities of medieval life. The wind, carrying with it the sounds of rustling leaves and creaking branches, painted a picture of a world far removed from the comforting silence of a modern bedroom. The sheer volume of these sounds, the relentless barrage of noise that permeated the medieval night, is difficult for modern ears to grasp. We are accustomed to a degree of quiet, to a sense of controlled environment where noises are minimized and sleep is protected. The medieval experience was radically different. Sleep was a battle fought against a relentless onslaught of auditory stimuli. It wasn't a passive state, it was an active struggle to find a sliver of respite in a cacophony of sounds. This constant bombardment likely contributed significantly to sleep deprivation, a condition that was likely far more prevalent in the Middle Ages than in modern society. The effects of this lack of sleep likely contributed to various factors throughout the lives of the population, affecting their mood, energy levels, and potentially even overall health. The expectation of silence or tranquility in sleep was an almost alien concept. The sounds of the night were interwoven with the anxieties of the time. The darkness, a realm of shadows and uncertainties, was seen not merely as the absence of light, but as a period of increased vulnerability. The rustling of leaves outside could be interpreted as the movement of spirits, the creaking of the house as the work of mischievous entities. These weren't just figments of the imagination, they were part of the cultural fabric, a tangible aspect of the medieval experience. Superstitions about the supernatural and the potential for malevolent forces to intrude on one's sleep are vividly described in countless medieval sources. Prayers, amulets, and protective charms offered a measure of comfort, but these measures did not necessarily equate to the quiet and peaceful environment we might associate with restful sleep in modern times. This inherent anxiety undoubtedly contributed to the difficulties in achieving a good night's sleep. Imagine trying to sleep amidst this relentless barrage of sound, the constant awareness of your physical proximity to others, your livestock, and the unsettling feeling of the straw beneath you shifting constantly. Consider the discomfort of the pests mentioned earlier, the ceaseless itching, the bites, the constant scratching, adding to the physical discomfort and the sleep disturbances. Sleep wasn't a given, it was a privilege, hard earned and often fleeting. The lack of personal space, the constant noise, and the ever present fear of the unknown made achieving restorative sleep a near impossible task for most people in this era. It's impossible to fully grasp the difference between a medieval sleep and our own, but reflecting on this contrasts emphasizes the comfort and convenience we often take for granted in our own lives. The sounds of the night were not merely auditory events, they were a reflection of the broader social, cultural, and spiritual context of the medieval period. They served as a constant reminder of the precariousness of life, the vulnerability of the individual, and the ever present influence of the supernatural. It was a world where sleep was not a passive process, but an active struggle against the elements and the anxieties of the time. It's a stark contrast to our modern experience, where technology and design often aim to create a sanctuary of silence and comfort for rest. The journey from the medieval straw bed to the modern technology enhanced sleep environment reflects not just a change in our sleeping arrangements, but a fundamental shift in our relationship with the night and our expectations of sleep itself. The very concept of a good night's sleep has undergone a profound transformation, reflecting broader changes in society, technology, and our understanding of rest. The evolution from a cacophony of discomfort to the relative quiet of a modern bedroom is a testament to how far we have come and how much we often overlook in our daily lives. The physical discomfort of the medieval straw bed was only half the battle, while the itching fleas and the uneven lumps beneath one's weary body contributed significantly to sleeplessness, the true nightmare often resided in the realm of the spiritual. The darkness, a palpable entity in the dimly lit homes of the Middle Ages, was not merely the absence of light, it was a breeding ground for anxieties born of deep seated religious beliefs and pervasive superstitions. The modern concept of sleep as a purely physiological process would have been utterly alien to our medieval ancestors. For them, sleep was a perilous journey into a world where the boundary between the living and the dead blurred and malevolent forces held sway. The prevailing Christian worldview of the time imbued the night with a potent sense of spiritual danger. The hours of darkness were perceived as a time when the veil between the earthly and spiritual realms thinned, when demons and evil spirits roamed freely, seeking to prey on the vulnerable souls of sleeping humanity. The belief that the soul left the body during sleep, a concept prevalent across many cultures throughout history, only served to amplify these fears. While sleeping, one was defenseless, a vessel adrift in a sea of unseen dangers. It wasn't just a matter of being robbed or attacked, it was a fear of demonic possession, spiritual corruption, and even the theft of one's very soul. This anxiety isn't merely conjecture drawn from dusty tomes. Medieval literature is rife with tales of nocturnal encounters with malevolent entities, from mischievous sprites to terrifying demons. The bestiaries, those encyclopedias of fantastical creatures, often contained detailed descriptions of night dwelling monsters that preyed on the unsuspecting sleeper. These weren't mere bedtime stories meant to frighten children. They were expressions of a genuine fear woven into the very fabric of medieval society. The narratives vividly depicted the horrors that could befall those who failed to take proper precautions against spiritual attacks during the night. Sleep, therefore, was not simply a period of rest, it was a test of faith, a battle against unseen adversaries fought while one was physically and spiritually vulnerable. Consider the chilling tales of incubi and succubi, male and female demons, respectively, who were believed to engage in sexual relations with sleeping individuals. These encounters, far from being sensual experiences, were viewed as acts of demonic violation, leaving the victim spiritually and sometimes physically drained. The belief in such creatures permeated medieval society, adding another layer of terror to the already dawning prospect of nighttime slumber. This fear wasn't limited to the uneducated or superstitious. Even learned scholars and clergy wrote about these entities and the dangers they presented. The widespread belief in their existence speaks volumes about the pervasive anxieties surrounding sleep and the vulnerability of the individual in the darkness. The fear of witches added another dimension to the nighttime terrors. Witches, often depicted as hag-like figures with supernatural powers, were believed to be particularly active at night. Medieval texts describe witches engaging in nocturnal rituals, flying on broomsticks, casting spells, and wreaking havoc upon those who crossed their paths. The fear of encountering a witch while sleeping was particularly acute. It was believed that witches could enter bedrooms, inflict harm, or even steal the life force from sleeping victims. A particularly vivid example comes from early modern witchcraft literature, where descriptions detail the methods witches were thought to employ, ranging from simple spells to far more sinister acts, like replacing children with changelings. These pervasive beliefs fostered the creation of complex rituals and protective measures. The spiritual dangers associated with the night were not merely passively accepted. Medieval people actively sought to protect themselves from these threats. Religious practices played a crucial role in providing comfort and a sense of security. Night prayers, often recited collectively within a family, served as a powerful ritual of protection. The recitation of sacred texts, the lighting of candles or lamps, and the making of the sign of the cross were common ways to ward off malevolent spirits. These weren't simply perfunctory actions, they were a tangible expression of faith, a demonstration of reliance on divine protection against the unseen dangers that lurked in the darkness. Amulets and charms also played a significant role in providing a sense of safety. These talismans, often blessed by a priest or imbued with religious symbols, were believed to have the power to deflect evil and protect the wearer from supernatural attacks. They were often placed under pillows or hung above beds, serving as a visible reminder of divine protection and a tangible shield against the unseen world. The use of such protective items wasn't limited to the poor and uneducated. Even wealthy members of society carried amulets or employed other rituals to seek spiritual protection during the night. This widespread use underscores the profound fear of the spiritual realm and the widespread belief in the effectiveness of such measures. The placement of holy objects near the bed, such as crucifixes or consecrated images, was a common practice. Those served as both spiritual safeguards and reminders of God's presence, offering comfort in a world where unseen evils were so readily believed to exist. The combination of prayers, amulets, and sacred objects constituted a multifaceted approach to dealing with the spiritual anxieties associated with the night. These were not merely superstitious practices, they were deeply ingrained aspects of religious faith, reflecting a sincere belief in the vulnerability of the human soul and the power of divine intervention. The contrast between the medieval understanding of sleep and our modern perspective is striking. We, in our relatively secular world, tend to view sleep as a purely physiological process, a period of rest and rejuvenation. We focus on optimizing sleep hygiene, creating an environment conducive to rest, and managing sleep disorders through medical and scientific means. In the Middle Ages, however, sleep was far more intertwined with the spiritual realm. It was not simply a biological necessity, but a perilous journey into a world of unseen dangers and spiritual vulnerabilities. The anxieties surrounding sleep in the Middle Ages were not just abstract fears, they significantly impacted the quality of sleep. The constant awareness of potential spiritual threats, the need to perform protective rituals, and the inherent vulnerability associated with sleep likely contributed to widespread sleep deprivation and disturbed sleep patterns. Imagine the mental and emotional toll of falling asleep each night, with the ever present fear of demonic attacks, witchcraft, or the loss of one's soul. This constant anxiety, coupled with the physical discomforts already discussed, likely made achieving restorative sleep a near impossible task for the average medieval person. It wasn't simply a matter of being tired, it was a matter of enduring a nightly battle against the forces of darkness. In essence, the medieval night was not just a period of darkness, it was a theater of spiritual anxieties, a realm where the unseen forces of good and evil clashed over the souls of slumbering humanity. Understanding the spiritual dimensions of the medieval night allows us to appreciate not only the physical realities of life in that era, but also the depth of their spiritual beliefs and the significant impact these beliefs had on their daily lives, their fears, and even the quality of their sleep. It's a far cry from our modern, more secular understanding of sleep, reminding us that the seemingly simple act of sleeping can be profoundly shaped by cultural beliefs and anxieties. The transition from this world of spiritual anxieties to the relative quietude of modern bedrooms represents not only advancements in comfort, but a fundamental shift in our understanding of the world and our place within it. The unsettling spiritual landscape of the medieval night, fraught with demonic visitations and spectral encounters, only adds another layer of complexity to the already challenging reality of sleep. But the horrors weren't solely confined to the ethereal realm. The physical environment played a significant role in shaping the medieval sleep experience, and nowhere was this more apparent than in the stark lack of privacy surrounding sleeping arrangements. Forget the hushed sanctity of the modern bedroom with its carefully curated darkness and climate control. Medieval sleep was a profoundly communal affair. Imagine, if you will, a cramped, dimly lit room, perhaps no more than a single chamber in a humble dwelling. Here, huddled together for warmth and security, lies a family, multiple generations sharing the same space. Grandparents, parents, children, and even the occasional pet, a scrawny dog, or perhaps a rather opportunistic cat, all sharing the same limited floor space. The bed, if it can be called that, might be little more than a pile of straw spread on the earthen floor, or perhaps a crude wooden frame filled with the same scratchy, flea infested material. This was hardly a sanctuary of quiet solitude. It was a vibrant, if somewhat chaotic, communal sleeping space. The sheer number of bodies crammed into such a confined space would have been a source of considerable discomfort. The jostling and shifting of limbs throughout the night, the sounds of snoring and breathing, the occasional accidental elbow to the ribs, these were inevitable parts of the medieval sleep experience. And let's not forget the ever present threat of bodily fluids. In the absence of modern sanitation and hygiene practices, the potential for spills and accidents added yet another layer of unpleasantness to the already less than ideal sleeping conditions. It's difficult for us to even fathom the level of proximity and potential discomfort inherent in such arrangements. But the communal sleeping wasn't just a matter of physical closeness. It was intricately interwoven with the social fabric of medieval life. The arrangement reflected the deep-rooted family structures and social hierarchies of the time. The positioning of individuals within the sleeping space often reflected their social standing and familial relationships. The elder members of the family, for instance, might have occupied a more central or prominent position within the shared sleeping area, underscoring their authority and respect within the family unit. Younger children, on the other hand, might have been placed closer to their parents, providing a sense of security and protection. This wasn't simply a matter of random arrangement. It was a carefully orchestrated spatial choreography that reflected the social dynamics and power structures within the family. The lack of privacy extended beyond the immediate family. In many households, particularly among the lower socioeconomic classes, the boundary between personal space and shared space was far more fluid. Servants, Apprentices and even lodgers might have shared the same sleeping area, blurring the lines between family members and other inhabitants of the dwelling. This collective sleeping arrangement fostered an atmosphere of constant interaction and intimacy, forging bonds of kinship and shared experience that are largely absent in the privacy of our modern bedrooms. Consider the implications of this constant proximity for intimate relationships. In a world devoid of the private bedroom, couples had little choice but to experience their physical intimacy within the collective sleeping space. Imagine the sounds, the smells, the inevitable awareness of the other bodies in close proximity, the potential for unplanned or unwelcome interruptions. The intimacy was necessarily shared, and the boundary between the public and private spheres of life was exceptionally porous. The implications of these communal sleeping arrangements stretched far beyond simple physical discomfort. They profoundly impacted social dynamics within the family. The constant proximity fostered a sense of collective responsibility and mutual dependence. Children learned early on to navigate the delicate balance between individual needs and the demands of group living. They developed skills of compromise, negotiation, and adaptation, all crucial for survival in a world where individual autonomy was often subservient to the needs of the community. This lack of personal space may have inadvertently enhanced familial bonds, forging strong connections and shared experiences that were, in their way, as unique as our current idealized isolation. The harsh realities of medieval life, particularly the limited heating options available, dictated a need for communal sleeping. The warmth of multiple bodies huddled together provided crucial protection against the harsh, often freezing temperatures of the medieval night. To retreat to individual beds would have been to invite an uncomfortable, perhaps even life threatening chill. This simple fact of survival significantly contributed to the communal sleeping practices that were the norm for centuries. The contrast between this medieval reality and our modern concept of the bedroom is stark. We value privacy, personal space, and individualized comfort. Our bedrooms are sanctuaries, designed for rest and rejuvenation in quiet solitude. The ideal of the private bedroom, a space reserved solely for sleep, relaxation, and perhaps intimacy, is a relatively recent invention, a reflection of our society's emphasis on individual autonomy and personal space. The medieval communal sleeping arrangement underscores the cultural contingency of our ideas about privacy and comfort. What we perceive as essential for well being is, in actuality, a product of specific historical and cultural circumstances, not some inherent or universal truth. Furthermore, the absence of privacy in medieval sleeping arrangements might inadvertently have had consequences for sleep quality itself. While the shared warmth could mitigate the cold, the noise, movement, and lack of personal space surely interfered with a restful night's sleep. The constant awareness of others, the shared sounds and smells, and the lack of control over one's immediate environment likely contributed to disrupted sleep patterns and a general lack of restorative sleep. Sleep, in this context, became less a haven of restoration and more a noisy communal endurance test. The stark differences between medieval and modern sleeping habits highlight a fundamental shift in our understanding of comfort, privacy, and the very nature of the home. The medieval home was a bustling hub of activity, a communal space where the lines between public and private were blurred. Modern homes, in contrast, often strive to create spaces of individualized retreat and quiet contemplation. The transition from communal sleeping to the private bedroom represents not only a change in physical arrangements, but a profound transformation in our cultural values and priorities. It's a reminder that seemingly simple practices, like sleeping, are profoundly influenced by historical and cultural forces, shaping not only our physical environments, but our very understanding of self and society. The shift reflects a broader move toward individualism in modern society, a striking contrast to the communal spirit often inherent in medieval social structures. In the shared straw of the medieval bed, we encounter a stark reminder of the complexities and relative luxuries of our own sleep arrangements. The rhythmic clang of the monastery bell, slicing through the pre dawn chill, was a sound utterly foreign to the ears of most medieval folk. For the peasantry, sleep was a haphazard affair, dictated by the relentless demands of agricultural labor and the vagaries of the natural world. But for the cloistered monks, sleep was a meticulously scheduled commodity, a brief respite sandwiched between lengthy periods of prayer, contemplation, and manual labor. Their day began not with the gentle caress of sunlight, but with the jarring summons of the bell, a metallic harbinger of a long, demanding day devoted to spiritual disciplines. The monastic schedule was a testament to the rigid structure that governed every aspect of monastic life. Unlike the flexible sleep patterns of the peasantry, driven by the rhythm of the seasons and the demands of their work, the monks lived by the clock, their lives punctuated by a series of prescribed activities, each meticulously timed and rigidly enforced. Sleep, therefore, was a strictly allotted quantity, a necessary evil to be endured rather than savored. The monastic day began impossibly early, before the sun even thought about rising, with matins, the first of several daily services. These early hours demanded a degree of self discipline that would challenge even the most ardent modern devotee of early rising. A quick wash, a hasty prayer, and then back to the demanding rhythm of the day. Imagine the weariness, the struggle against the lingering vestiges of sleep, the sheer mental effort required to conquer the natural inclination to succumb to slumber. Their lives were a perpetual dance on the knife edge between exhaustion and spiritual fervor. The irony, of course, is that the very rituals designed to promote spiritual clarity might well have been undermined by the sleep deprivation they imposed. The monastic experience, though extreme, highlighted a pervasive truth about medieval sleep. It was rarely a matter of personal choice. Sleep, for most people, was a byproduct of external forces, whether the demands of agricultural labor, the routines of monastic life, or the dictates of social hierarchy. The concept of sleep hygiene, with its carefully curated bedtime routines and sleep promoting environments, would have been utterly alien to these people. The medieval world was a world of forced wakefulness, of sleep as a necessary interruption to more pressing concerns. Even among the nobility, the slumbering hours were not necessarily characterized by quiet tranquility and restful repose. For the aristocratic classes, the picture was slightly different. While they might have had more comfortable sleeping arrangements than their peasant counterparts, perhaps a feather bed instead of a straw pallet, the quality of their sleep was just as likely to be disturbed. The fear of sudden death in sleep, a real and ever present anxiety, in a world lacking modern medicine might lead to unconventional sleeping postures. Upright sleeping, for instance, was sometimes adopted. Imagine being propped up against pillows halfway between sitting and lying down, an uncomfortable position at best, yet considered a crucial precaution against the perils of nocturnal demise. It's a testament to the anxiety that permeated even the most privileged lives, a constant reminder of the fragility of existence. Sleep, even for the rich and powerful, was not a matter of simple rest, but a cautious negotiation with the shadow of death. The rigid structures that governed monastic life mirrored a broader societal emphasis on order and predictability. This extended beyond religion, shaping the daily routines of even the most secular members of society. The ringing of bells, not just in monasteries, but in towns and villages, signaled the time for work, prayer, and rest. The lives of medieval people were, in many ways, orchestrated by the sound of bells, their movements governed by a strict, almost militaristic schedule. This regimented lifestyle left little room for individual autonomy or personal preferences, particularly in the area of sleep. The timing of sleep was not a matter of personal choice, but a consequence of external factors. Consider the lives of the nobles. Their days were filled with courtly rituals, hunting expeditions, and political maneuvering. Their nights, while potentially more comfortable in terms of bedding, were hardly a respite from the responsibilities of their elevated status. While they might have enjoyed greater luxury in their sleeping arrangements, the anxieties and pressures of their position likely interfered with the quality of their sleep. Imagine the sleepless nights spent agonizing over political rivalries, financial woes, or the health of family members. The absence of privacy, even within the walls of a grand manor house, meant that the nobility's sleep wasn't necessarily a private affair either. The sounds of a bustling household, servants going about their duties, children crying, dogs barking, might have further disrupted any attempts at restful slumber. The stark contrast between the meticulously scheduled sleep of the monks and the potentially disrupted sleep of the nobility highlights the complex relationship between social status, religious practice, and the experience of sleep. Both groups, in their different ways, experienced sleep as something governed by external forces, rather than a matter of individual choice. For the monks, it was the rigid demands of religious observance. For the nobles, it was the pressures and anxieties of their social position. Both groups, however, lived in a world where sleep was far less a matter of personal preference and far more a function of societal structures and expectations. The reality of medieval sleep, then, was a multifaceted and often uncomfortable experience. It wasn't a uniformly shared experience. Peasants toiled until exhaustion claimed them, monks adhered to rigid schedules, and nobles battled anxieties within their comparatively luxurious, yet still public, sleeping spaces. What unites them all was the lack of autonomy over their sleep patterns. They lived in a world where sleep wasn't a personal sanctuary, but a byproduct of their social circumstances and religious duties, a harsh reminder of the limited control they had over their own lives. This lack of control extended to the very environment in which people slept. The prevailing conditions weren't conducive to what we would today consider a restful night. The ubiquitous presence of pests, fleas, lice, bed bugs, was a constant source of discomfort and irritation. The chill of the medieval night, particularly in poorly heated homes, made sleep a constant struggle against the cold. Imagine the persistent scratching of a flea bite, the biting wind whistling through cracks in the walls, the dampness seeping from the ground into your straw mattress. Sleep, under such circumstances, was not a refuge, but a battlefield against the elements and a host of tiny bloodthirsty adversaries. Moreover, sanitation was rudimentary, and accidents were a constant possibility. This isn't some romanticized vision of medieval life. It was a harsh reality. Furthermore, the shared sleeping spaces, while offering warmth, also created a noisy, chaotic environment. The sounds of snoring, coughing, rustling, and even the occasional bout of nocturnal activity, of a decidedly non romantic variety, would have created a symphony of sounds that would make modern sleep studies wince. Privacy was a luxury almost unheard of, and so the intimate details of one's life, including the more unsavory aspects of slumber, were inescapably shared with family, servants, and anyone else unfortunate enough to share the sleeping space. The lack of personal space significantly impacted family dynamics. Children grew up accustomed to constant physical closeness, learning to negotiate for space, quiet, and privacy, whether it was available or not. Their very understanding of intimacy, family, and the boundaries of personal space would have been fundamentally different from our own. The close quartered living situation may have fostered a greater sense of community, but it likely came at the expense of the quiet and solitude we now associate with a good night's rest. The communal nature of sleep in medieval times underscores just how dramatically our own conceptions of sleep, privacy, and personal space have changed. The difference between the medieval sleep experience and our own highlights the significant shift in our understanding of both privacy and comfort. The modern obsession with personal space and individualized comfort reflects a fundamental shift in our cultural values. Our bedrooms are sanctuaries designed for quiet contemplation, rest, and rejuvenation, reflecting a deep seated emphasis on individual autonomy and self care. We curate our sleeping environments, controlling the temperature, the light, the sound, and even the smells in a way that would have been completely unimaginable to our medieval ancestors. It is a sobering reflection on how much of what we consider necessary for a good night's rest is, in fact, a product of historical contingencies, economic circumstances, and cultural values, and not an inherent human need. The difference between the medieval straw pallet and the modern temperature controlled bedroom is not just a matter of comfort. It's a dramatic reflection of profound societal shifts, a stark testament to the luxury of our own sleep arrangements and the drastically different lives of those who came before us. The medieval night, with all its challenges, offers a poignant reminder of the fragile and often uncomfortable nature of sleep itself. It serves as a humbling lesson in the relativity of comfort and the powerful role culture plays in shaping our most fundamental human experiences. The shift from the physical realities of medieval sleep to the realm of dreams presents a fascinating contrast. While the previous sections detailed the often uncomfortable and unpredictable nature of slumber in the medieval period, the interpretation of dreams offered a different kind of solace, albeit one tinged with superstition and anxiety. Sleep, a battleground against the elements and bodily discomforts, yielded to the enigmatic landscape of dreams, where the unconscious mind offered glimpses into the future or whispered secrets of the body. In the absence of modern scientific understanding of sleep cycles and dream function, dreams were perceived through a distinctly supernatural lens, providing a window into the unseen forces that governed medieval life. Medieval dream interpretation wasn't a monolithic entity. The approach to understanding dreams varied across social strata, religious orders, and geographical locations. However, several common threads woven through the diverse tapestry of medieval dream lore are apparent. One of the most prevalent methods of dream interpretation was the use of oniricritica, or dream dictionaries. These books, often compiled from classical sources like Artemidorus's Oniricriticon, served as guides to deciphering the symbolic language of dreams. These weren't merely lists of dream symbols and their interpretations, though. They often reflected the cultural anxieties and beliefs of their time. For instance, our recurring dreams of fire, frequently interpreted as a sign of impending illness or death, reflected the ever present fear of conflagration in a world where wooden structures were ubiquitous and firefighting techniques were rudimentary. These dream dictionaries, however, weren't always straightforward. The same symbol could hold multiple meanings, depending on the context within the dream itself, the dreamer's circumstances, and even the phase of the moon. Consider, for example, the recurring dream motif of water. In one context, it might symbolize spiritual cleansing and rebirth, mirroring the prevalent religious symbolism of baptism. In another, it could represent emotional turmoil or impending calamity, reflecting the unpredictable nature of rivers and the ever present threat of floods. The ambiguity inherent in dream interpretation necessitated expertise, often requiring the involvement of learned individuals such as clergymen, physicians, or even skilled fortune tellers. This ambiguity fostered a thriving subculture surrounding dream divination. While physicians might interpret dreams within the context of humoral medicine, seeing them as indicators of underlying physical imbalances, others viewed dreams as divinely ordained messages or even pronouncements from the devil himself. The ability to interpret these enigmatic visions was seen as a skill that blended medical knowledge, religious understanding, and a touch of magical insight. This led to the development of a hierarchy of dream interpreters, ranging from village-wise women offering simple interpretations to highly respected scholars who studied ancient texts for hidden clues to dream symbolism. The role of religious beliefs is impossible to overstate. Christian theology deeply influenced the interpretation of dreams. Dreams were often seen as messages from God, warnings of impending danger, or confirmations of spiritual progress. Theological texts, alongside classical oniricritica, provided frameworks for interpreting the symbolic language of dreams, filtering the symbols through a distinctly Christian lens. Dreams of angels and saints were interpreted as signs of divine favor, whereas dreams of demons and monsters were viewed as manifestations of evil or temptation. The lines between dreams, visions, and prophetic revelations often blurred, intensifying the perceived importance of accurately interpreting their symbolic language. The interpretation of dreams wasn't merely a spiritual exercise, it also played a significant role in medieval medicine. Physicians often sought to understand the patient's dreams as a way of gaining insights into their physical and mental health. Dreams, in this context, became diagnostic tools, reflecting the underlying humoral imbalances or emotional stresses that might be causing illness. For example, recurrent nightmares might signify an excess of black bile, indicating melancholy or depression, ailments treated through bloodletting, or herbal remedies intended to restore the balance of the humors. Similarly, vivid dreams of intense heat or cold might suggest an imbalance of the other humors, leading to different treatment strategies. Dreams, therefore, were not seen as isolated events, but as potential clues to unlock the secrets of the body and mind. The contrast between medieval dream interpretation and modern sleep science is stark. While modern sleep science focuses on the physiological processes of sleep and dreams, medieval interpretations relied on symbolic associations, religious beliefs, and the often ambiguous insights gleaned from dream dictionaries. Modern researchers may explore the cognitive functions of dreams, searching for clues to understand memory consolidation, emotional processing, or problem solving, while medieval interpreters searched for divine messages or warnings of imminent peril. The difference highlights the evolution of our understanding of consciousness and the human mind, a journey from the supernatural to the scientific. Modern sleep studies have largely supplanted the use of dream dictionaries, and while the field continues to evolve, it's now more likely you'll find a sleep specialist rather than a dream interpreter seeking to understand the meaning behind your nocturnal flights of fancy. Yet, despite the differences, the enduring fascination with dreams persists. The medieval world's emphasis on the symbolic language of dreams, its integration into medical diagnosis and religious practices, and its deep seated connection to divination showcase the timeless human desire to understand the mysteries of the unconscious mind. The anxieties and hopes reflected in medieval dream interpretations, the fear of disease and death, the longing for divine favor, the desire to glimpse the future, resonate even today, demonstrating the continued relevance of this ancient practice. Even in our modern era of scientific advancements, the power of dreams to intrigue and perplex remains a testament to the enduring mystery of the human experience. Whether it's a nightmare caused by indigestion or a prophetic dream interpreted by a learned scholar, the exploration of medieval dreams provides a fascinating glimpse into a past where the boundaries between the waking and sleeping worlds were far less distinct, and where the interpretation of dreams held profound significance for life and death. The very act of dreaming, in a world lacking electricity, lacked the comfort of consistent routine, and struggled with the basic needs of clean water and warmth, makes their interpretation all the more rich and complex. The dream, in essence, became a form of escape, a different reality constructed from anxiety and the uncertainties of a world both beautiful and brutally harsh. The transition from the relatively straightforward, if uncomfortable, realities of medieval sleep to the terrifying landscapes of night terrors and sleep paralysis marks a significant shift in our understanding of the medieval mind. While dreams offered a potential window into the future or the secrets of the body, these more extreme nocturnal experiences were rarely interpreted as symbolic messages. Instead, they were understood as direct interventions from the supernatural realm, terrifying encounters with forces beyond human comprehension. The absence of any scientific understanding of sleep disorders meant that these unsettling events were framed within the prevailing belief system, a world saturated with demons, spirits, and the ever present struggle between good and evil. Sleep paralysis, that terrifying sensation of being awake but unable to move, would have been particularly unsettling in the medieval context. Imagine waking in the dead of night, your body unresponsive, a suffocating weight pressing down upon you. In the dimly lit confines of a medieval bedroom, with the sounds of the night echoing around you, such an experience would easily be attributed to an external malevolent force. The individual might feel the presence of something unseen, something malevolent, actively preventing movement and causing intense fear. The medieval worldview readily provided an explanation. Incubi and succubi, demonic entities believed to prey upon sleeping individuals, often sexually assaulting them or inducing nightmares. These creatures were not merely figments of the imagination, they were tangible threats capable of inflicting both physical and psychological harm. The narratives surrounding incubi and succubi are replete with chilling details, reflecting the anxieties and superstitions of the time. Chronicles and personal accounts describe encounters with these demonic beings, detailing their terrifying physical forms, their ability to induce paralysis and fear, and the lingering sense of violation and dread experienced by their victims. The lack of medical understanding meant that these experiences were not viewed as psychological or neurological phenomena. Instead, they were explained as encounters with actual demons, often attributed to a lack of piety, sexual sin, or exposure to witchcraft. The psychological trauma inflicted by such experiences would have been compounded by the societal stigma associated with being a victim of demonic attack. Night terrors, those episodes of intense fear and screaming during sleep, were similarly attributed to supernatural causes. Children, particularly, were considered vulnerable to these attacks, with the belief that malevolent spirits or demons would prey upon their innocent minds. These terrifying episodes were interpreted not as physiological events, but as manifestations of demonic influence, leaving parents and caregivers grappling with fears of possession and the need for urgent exorcism. The afflicted child might exhibit symptoms far beyond the immediate night terror, such as unexplained illnesses, unusual behaviors, or unsettling utterances, further strengthening the belief in demonic involvement. The perceived involvement of witchcraft added another layer of complexity to the interpretation of night terrors and sleep paralysis. Accusations of witchcraft often included claims of nighttime attacks, where the accused witch would supposedly visit sleeping individuals, inflicting harm through spells or demonic intervention. The vulnerability of sleep became a key element in these accusations, highlighting the anxieties surrounding the unconscious mind and the perceived vulnerability of the sleeping body. The notion of a witch's malevolent intent, woven into the fabric of sleep disturbances, dramatically increased the fear and social repercussions for those experiencing these phenomena. Medieval remedies for these sleep disturbances were as unconventional as their explanations. Instead of seeking medical solutions, individuals often turned to religious practices or magical interventions. Prayers, exorcisms, and the wearing of amulets or holy relics were common methods employed to ward off demonic influence. Holy water, considered a powerful weapon against evil, was frequently used to cleanse the affected individuals and their sleeping spaces. The use of herbs and potions, often rooted in folklore and magical beliefs, was another approach to counter these supernatural intrusions. These remedies were not mere placebos, they were integral parts of the broader medieval worldview, reflecting the belief that these conditions were caused by forces beyond the comprehension of medical science. The contrast between the medieval interpretations of night terrors and sleep paralysis and their modern medical understanding is striking. Today, we recognize sleep paralysis as a neurological phenomenon linked to sleep cycles and REM sleep. Night terrors are likewise classified as parasomnias, sleep disorders often linked to stress, fatigue, or underlying medical conditions. While the exact causes are still being investigated, the explanations are grounded in biological and psychological mechanisms, far removed from the demonic entities of medieval belief. Modern treatment focuses on addressing these underlying causes rather than exorcism or magical cures. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and medication are often employed to manage the symptoms and improve sleep quality. Yet echoes of the medieval worldview still resonate today. The enduring power of fear, the anxiety associated with the unknown, and the anxieties surrounding the vulnerability of sleep create a lingering sense of connection to the medieval experience. While we have sophisticated scientific explanations for sleep disturbances, the primal fear associated with these events is deeply ingrained, reminiscent of the terror experienced in the medieval era. The enduring power of these nighttime experiences reminds us that, while our scientific understanding has advanced, the human experience of fear, vulnerability, and the mystery of the unconscious mind remains fundamentally unchanged. The sheer terror of a night terror is a visceral reminder that even in the 21st century, the world of dreams and sleep can still feel profoundly alien and unsettling, a legacy of the ancient anxieties that shaped the interpretation of these phenomena centuries ago. This lingering unease, this persistent sense of the uncanny, suggests that despite the shift from demonology to neurology, some aspects of the medieval experience remain indelibly etched within our own cultural consciousness. The shadows of incubi and succubi still linger, reminding us of the enduring power of fear and the mysteries that remain unsolved, even in a world awash in medical and scientific advancements. The medieval approach to sleep disturbances offers a fascinating lens through which to examine the evolution of our understanding of the mind and body. The narratives surrounding incubi, succubi, night terrors, and sleep paralysis are not simply historical curiosities. They are reflections of a time when the invisible world held a far more tangible influence on daily life. By understanding these beliefs and practices, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity of the human experience and a greater understanding of how our perspectives on health, illness, and the supernatural have evolved over time. The juxtaposition of the medieval belief systems with modern scientific understanding provides a compelling narrative illustrating how vastly different explanatory frameworks, influenced by cultural and technological advancements, shape our understanding of even the most fundamental aspects of human existence. The enduring power of these anxieties shows us that certain aspects of human experience remain remarkably persistent through history, transcending the limitations of scientific understanding and reflecting deep seated anxieties that continue to resonate in our own times. The fear that lies beneath the blankets remains. It is simply the cause which is reinterpreted. The stark terror of demonic visitation, the chilling weight of sleep paralysis, and the inexplicable screams of night terrors. These were not merely unpleasant experiences in the medieval world. They were interpreted as battles fought in the very heart of the night, a nocturnal war between the soul and the supernatural. Consequently, the remedies for such afflictions weren't found in the apothecary, but often in the church, the garden, or the whispered incantations of a learned woman. The absence of modern scientific understanding meant that treatments focused on spiritual warfare rather than physiological imbalances. Insomnia, that persistent enemy of restful sleep, was approached with a similar blend of practicality and the supernatural. A restless night wasn't simply a matter of an overactive mind. It was often seen as a sign of spiritual disquiet, a potential attack from malevolent entities vying for control. Therefore, the medieval approach to insomnia wasn't solely concerned with inducing sleep, but also with protecting the sleeper from unseen forces. One of the most prevalent approaches involved the harnessing of the power of plants. Herbal remedies, rooted in centuries of folk tradition and interwoven with magical beliefs, formed a cornerstone of medieval sleep aids. Poppy, with its sleep inducing properties, was a common ingredient, often used in soothing concoctions or added to pillows to encourage slumber. The alluring scent of lavender, similarly, played its part, its fragrance believed to calm the nerves and invite peaceful rest. Chamomile tea, still valued today for its calming effects, occupied a similar role in the medieval pharmacopoeia, offering a gentle approach to overcoming insomnia. Many recipes, handed down through generations, involved carefully measured mixtures of these herbs, along with other ingredients whose specific properties might now be lost to time, creating personalized potions for sleep. Yet these herbal remedies weren't merely botanical concoctions. Their effectiveness was intimately linked to the belief in their power, a testament to the potent placebo effect operating in the absence of modern science. The preparation of the remedies, often conducted under the light of the moon or during specific astrological phases, further embedded the potions within a system of belief, imbuing them with a deeper, more mystical efficacy. The very act of preparing and administering the herbals became a ritual, a symbolic act of warding off the unseen forces that might be contributing to the insomnia. Religious practices also played a critical role in addressing sleep disturbances. Prayers, particularly those dedicated to saints, known for their protective powers, were often recited before sleep. Individuals might seek the intervention of Saint Michael, the archangel renowned for his battle against evil, or turn to the Virgin Mary, whose maternal protection offered solace against nocturnal threats. The recitation of psalms, passages from the Book of Psalms, believed to possess inherent spiritual power, was also a common practice. Their rhythmic cadence and sacred words believed to offer protection against demonic influence and quiet the mind, preparing the body and soul for sleep. The use of amulets and holy relics provided another layer of protection against the forces believed to cause sleeplessness. These talismans, often small objects imbued with religious significance or blessed by a priest, were believed to possess the power to ward off evil spirits or create a sanctuary for the sleeper. A cross, a piece of blessed cloth, or a small relic of a saint might be placed beneath the pillow, creating a sacred space that offered a bulwark against malevolent forces. This was not simply a psychological comfort, it was a physical manifestation of the belief in the power of faith to protect against the unseen world. Interestingly, even the physical environment played a role in the medieval approach to insomnia. Sleep arrangements were often designed to offer both physical and spiritual protection. Bedrooms, when feasible, were located away from noisy areas, reducing environmental disruptions. The presence of holy objects or images within the sleeping chamber reinforced the protection offered by religious faith. Beyond herbal remedies, religious rituals, and amulets, certain practices were believed to possess sleep inducing properties. These techniques were interwoven with the existing worldview, demonstrating the intricate connection between the physical and the spiritual in understanding and addressing health issues in the medieval era. For example, drinking warm milk before bed, though lacking a deep theoretical justification at the time, likely had a mildly sedative effect, while the practice of counting sheep might have had a similar, subtle, calming impact. These approaches, while simple by modern standards, show the resourcefulness of individuals and their determination to overcome sleeplessness within the constraints of their understanding of the world. The contrast between the medieval approaches and modern sleep medicine is striking. Today, scientific research has identified a myriad of potential causes for insomnia, ranging from physiological factors such as hormonal imbalances to psychological stressors such as anxiety and depression. Treatments range from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, to medication, focusing on identifying and addressing the underlying causes of the sleep problem. The focus is firmly placed on the physical and psychological mechanisms underlying sleep regulation rather than on warding off demonic forces. The transition from demonology to neurology in understanding and treating insomnia reflects not only advancements in scientific knowledge, but also a profound shift in the way we view the world and our place within it. The medieval methods, however, offer a valuable window into the past, revealing a different way of understanding health, illness, and the delicate interplay between the human body and the supernatural. In closing, while modern sleep medicine has advanced considerably, some aspects of the medieval approach resonate even today. The importance of creating a peaceful and calming environment for sleep remains a common recommendation, and the use of herbal remedies, though often with a more scientific understanding of their mechanisms, persists. Ultimately, the medieval remedies for insomnia, despite their inherent limitations by modern scientific standards, offer a unique perspective on the evolution of our understanding of sleep, reflecting both the limits and the ingenuity of our ancestors, and demonstrating the enduring quest for restful slumber across centuries. The legacy of those medieval remedies, a curious blend of herbal concoctions, fervent prayer, and sacred protection, continues to cast a shadow, if only a slightly gentler one, over our attempts to quiet the restless mind and body. The fight for a good night's sleep, it turns out, is a battle fought across millennia. The medieval understanding of sleep wasn't merely about the cessation of activity. It was deeply intertwined with the prevailing worldview, a complex tapestry woven from threads of physical health, spiritual well-being, and the ever-present threat of the supernatural. Unlike our modern, scientifically driven approach, the medieval perspective saw sleep as a vulnerable state, a time when the body and soul were susceptible to external influences, both earthly and otherworldly. Sleep deprivation, therefore, wasn't simply seen as a cause of fatigue, but as a weakening of the body's defenses, leaving it open to illness, both physical and spiritual. Medieval medical texts, often a fascinating blend of classical Galenic theories and folk wisdom, emphasized the importance of sufficient rest. While lacking the precise physiological understanding of sleep we possess today, they recognized its restorative power. The humoral theory, a cornerstone of medieval medicine, played a significant role in this understanding. This theory posited that the body was governed by four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, and that imbalances in these humors caused illness. Sufficient sleep was considered essential for maintaining the balance of these humors, thereby promoting overall health and preventing disease. A lack of sleep, conversely, could disrupt this delicate balance, leading to a range of ailments. The effects of sleep deprivation were described vividly in medieval medical writings. Chronic sleeplessness was linked to a weakening of the body, making it susceptible to infections and other illnesses. Furthermore, it was associated with mental instability, manifested in irritability, impaired judgment, and even hallucinations. These observations, while lacking the precision of modern diagnostics, accurately reflect the detrimental impact of chronic sleep deprivation on both physical and mental health. The descriptions found in medieval texts often read more like accounts of extreme stress than a clinical presentation, mirroring the reality of their limited ability to intervene therapeutically. The very notion of rest for them likely included not just sleep, but a cessation of all strenuous activities. Medieval medical texts also shed light on the cultural perceptions of sleep. The hours of sleep were often dictated by the rhythm of the seasons and the availability of daylight. The long nights of winter meant longer periods of sleep, whereas the longer days of summer afforded shorter periods of rest. This was simply a matter of practicality. There was less to do during winter evenings, unlike during summer. The cycle of activity was largely dictated by the sun, rather than internal biological clocks. Interestingly, the concept of dreaming, so intimately connected to sleep, was also viewed through a spiritual lens. Dreams were often interpreted as messages from God, warnings of impending danger, or glimpses into the future. Nightmare, therefore, were far from mere unpleasant dreams. They were often seen as ominous premonitions or even attacks by demons. The treatment for nightmares often involved religious rituals, such as prayers, exorcisms, and the use of protective amulets. These methods aimed not to address a neurological phenomenon, but to cast out malevolent entities believed to be responsible for these frightening experiences. The medical treatment of sleep disorders in the medieval period largely mirrored this spiritual orientation. Insomnia, for instance, wasn't simply attributed to stress or an overactive mind. It was often seen as a sign of spiritual disquiet or a manifestation of divine displeasure. The remedies, therefore, ranged from herbal concoctions aimed at calming the mind and body to religious practices designed to appease spiritual forces. The role of herbs in medieval sleep remedies is especially fascinating. The use of herbs wasn't a random, haphazard practice. It was rooted in a deeply ingrained understanding of the relationship between plants and human health, a tradition that had been passed down through generations, often infused with magical and superstitious beliefs. Poppy, as mentioned previously, was a frequently used ingredient, its soporific properties being well recognized. It wasn't only ingested, poppy heads were sometimes placed in pillows to promote sleep through their subtle aroma. Lavender, known today for its calming fragrance, played a similar role. Chamomile tea, the gentle calming potion known for its stress relieving properties today, also had a crucial function in medieval sleep medicine. Beyond these commonly known herbs, a myriad of other plants, some now forgotten, others still used in traditional medicine, contributed to medieval sleep remedies. The preparation and administration of these herbal remedies weren't simply mechanical acts, they were ritualistic procedures. The time of day, the phase of the moon, and even the astrological alignment might influence the preparation process. These details underscored the importance of symbolic and ritualistic elements in their effectiveness, reflecting a holistic view of health and wellness that went far beyond the simple pharmacological action of the herbs. The placebo effect undoubtedly played a considerable role in their efficacy, further blurring the line between physical and spiritual healing. The contrast between this medieval approach and modern sleep medicine is stark. Today, we employ a scientific, evidence based approach targeting specific physiological and psychological causes of sleep disorders. Neurological studies have advanced our understanding of sleep mechanisms, allowing for effective treatments ranging from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for insomnia to various pharmaceutical interventions. We've moved far beyond simple herbs and prayers. The transition from a supernatural dominated understanding to a scientific one reflects a monumental shift in our view of the world. Yet interestingly, echoes of the medieval approach remain. The emphasis on creating a peaceful and relaxing environment for sleep, reducing noise and stress, continues to be a cornerstone of modern sleep hygiene. Herbal remedies, though often with a deeper understanding of their pharmacodynamics, continue to be used, showcasing a surprising, albeit scientifically informed, convergence with those medieval practices. The medieval understanding of sleep and its role in health, therefore, offers a valuable glimpse into a different, almost alien world. Their methods, while limited by the scientific knowledge of their time, underscore human resourcefulness and ingenuity in the pursuit of a good night's rest, a quest that has continued across the centuries, evolving from a battle against demons to a delicate dance with neurotransmitters. The fight for restful slumber, it seems, transcends time itself. The lingering whispers of those ancient remedies, a blend of fragrant herbs, heartfelt prayers, and faith in the unseen, remind us that even in our modern, scientifically advanced world, the pursuit of a good night's sleep continues to be a universal human endeavor. The tapestry of medieval life, already richly woven with threads of superstition and religious observance, was further intricately patterned by the rhythms of daily life and the surprisingly nuanced understanding, for its time, of the impact of diet and lifestyle on sleep. While lacking the sophisticated tools of modern sleep science, medieval individuals, through experience and observation, developed a practical, if often unscientific, understanding of how their routines influenced their rest. This understanding, naturally, varied greatly depending on social standing, on occupation, and geographical location. For the peasantry, The backbone of medieval society, the daily grind dictated their sleep schedules. Sunrise was typically the alarm clock, and sunset the signal for rest, a rhythm dictated by the agricultural calendar and the demands of manual labor. Their days were long, filled with back-breaking work in the fields, tending livestock, or performing domestic chores. Sleep was often snatched in short bursts, interspersed throughout the day, rather than concentrated into one long period. This wasn't necessarily a sign of poor sleep hygiene, but rather a pragmatic adaptation to a demanding lifestyle. The concept of a regular 8-hour sleep cycle, something we often take for granted, was largely foreign to them. Their sleep was fragmented, dictated by the demands of the day and the natural ebb and flow of daylight. Consider the medieval farmer. His sleep patterns, shaped by the seasons, varied dramatically. During the spring planting and autumn harvest seasons, sleep was often a luxury, squeezed between dawn to dusk workdays. The long, dark winter nights, however, offered a respite, allowing for longer periods of rest, a welcome compensation for the arduous labor of the warmer months. This seasonal variation in sleep is, in its own way, a precursor to our modern understanding of how circadian rhythms can be influenced by environmental factors, although their understanding was purely based on experience, not scientific analysis. The concept of sleep debt, while not formally recognized, was implicitly acknowledged through their observations. A particularly demanding harvest could lead to periods of extended lethargy and reduced productivity in the following weeks. Diet also played a crucial, though not always well understood, role in their sleep. The peasant diet, often meager and monotonous, consisted largely of grains, vegetables, and occasionally some meat. The abundance or scarcity of food directly impacted their energy levels and subsequently their sleep. A bountiful harvest meant more calories and potentially better sleep. Conversely, periods of famine or scarcity would lead to sleep deprivation exacerbated by hunger and stress. The lack of refined sugars meant their sleep likely wasn't significantly disrupted by sugar crashes in the way ours might be, though other nutritional deficiencies might have negatively impacted sleep quality. The lack of understanding of balanced nutrition, however, meant that the correlation between diet and sleep quality was probably not explicitly acknowledged. Their observations were more practical. Food equals energy equals work. Lack of food equals tiredness. Lack of food equals bad sleep, in a simple causal chain of thought. Moving up the social ladder, we find a different sleep narrative among the medieval aristocracy and the burgeoning merchant class. Their lives, while still largely dictated by the seasons and the demands of their various enterprises, offered a greater degree of control over their schedules. They enjoyed more comfortable living conditions, better diets, and fewer physically demanding tasks. This translated into longer and potentially more restful sleep, though even this privileged class wasn't immune to the vagaries of sleep disturbances. Their diets, while richer and more varied than the peasantry's, included copious amounts of rich foods, alcohol, and spices, all of which, in excess, could lead to digestive issues and disrupted sleep. Parties and late-night revelry, common among the wealthy, further contributed to irregular sleep patterns. However, it wasn't simply the availability of rich foods that caused sleep problems amongst the wealthy. The prevailing social conventions also played a significant role. The elaborate courtly life, filled with social obligations and political machinations, often extended late into the night. Sleep was often punctuated by feasts, music, and games, creating a far less regular sleep pattern than the more physically dictated schedule of the peasantry. Their sleep environments, too, were different. While peasants often slept communally in shared sleeping spaces, the wealthy had private chambers, but these chambers were not necessarily conducive to sleep. The lack of central heating, poor insulation, drafts, and the ever present threat of vermin contributed to less comfortable and less restful sleep experiences. Even with better diets, their sleep was influenced by social and environmental factors that mirrored the stress and pressures of the lives they led. Furthermore, the medieval understanding of sleep was deeply intertwined with their religious beliefs. Prayer, confession, and religious observance often occupied significant portions of the day, and these could affect sleep patterns in a way we find it harder to directly relate to in the 21st century. Certain religious practices, like vigils or fasting, imposed intentional periods of sleep deprivation, attesting to the fact that even then, the pursuit of spiritual goals could lead to significant sleep disruption. For the clergy, a regular life devoted to prayer and religious services directly shaped sleep habits. This suggests that despite all the differences in lifestyles, social status, and dietary habits, some common threads of sleep disruption ran through all levels of medieval society, whether it was the physical toil of the peasant or the social pressures faced by the aristocracy. The contrast between the medieval and modern approaches to sleep is striking. We have a much more detailed physiological understanding of sleep, leading to targeted interventions for sleep disorders. The rise of industrialization, urbanization, and technological advancements significantly altered work schedules and lifestyle patterns, creating new challenges to sleep health. The modern world presents a paradoxical situation. Despite our advances in sleep science, sleep deprivation is widespread due to factors like shift work, the pervasive influence of screen time, and the relentless pressure of modern life. We have better beds, better lighting, and improved temperature control, yet sleep disorders remain prevalent, suggesting that while the context has changed drastically, the human pursuit of restful sleep continues to be a constant battle, albeit fought on a different battlefield. Interestingly, certain aspects of the medieval approach to sleep continue to resonate in modern practices. The emphasis on creating a peaceful and relaxing sleep environment, minimizing noise and stress, remains a cornerstone of modern sleep hygiene. Herbal remedies, scientifically understood this time, still occupy a place in sleep medicine. The continuity suggests a more fundamental human need for rest and quiet, transcending both time and technological advancement. In conclusion, while the challenges faced in obtaining sufficient and restful sleep have evolved over the centuries, the fundamental need remains unchanged. The medieval experience, though vastly different from our own, provides a poignant reminder of the persistent struggle for a good night's sleep, a struggle that binds us across the ages and across social strata. Their pragmatic adaptations to their lifestyle and the limitations of their understanding of sleep offer a fascinating perspective that complements our more scientifically grounded approach today. Even in the absence of modern technology, their lived experience provides a rich context for understanding the universality of this fundamental human need and the persistence of the quest for rest. The echoes of their struggles are clearly audible in the modern day sigh of exhaustion, a testament to a universal need that stretches from the medieval fields to the digital screens of the modern world. The transition from the rudimentary sleeping arrangements of the medieval era to the technologically advanced sleep systems of the modern world is a journey marked by remarkable innovation and a persistent quest for comfort. Imagine for a moment the stark contrast: the rough, uneven surface of a straw pallet offering minimal cushioning against the cold, hard earth, juxtaposed against the plush, temperature regulating embrace of a modern memory foam mattress. This evolution is far more than a simple upgrade. It's a reflection of our evolving understanding of sleep, hygiene, and the importance of a restful night's sleep for overall well being. The medieval bed, for the vast majority, was a far cry from the luxurious beds we envision today. For peasants, a simple pallet of straw, perhaps layered with animal skins or coarse cloth for a modicum of warmth and insulation, was the norm. These beds were often shared, with multiple family members huddled together for warmth and security in drafty, poorly insulated homes. Hygiene was a significant concern. Lice and other vermin were common unwelcome bedfellows, a reality accepted, if not exactly welcomed. The idea of a bedding set was non existent. Practicality, not comfort, was the primary driver in sleeping arrangements. The location of the bed was often dictated by practicality and availability of space. It could be found nestled in a corner, alongside livestock, or wherever a spare space could be found. As we move up the social ladder to the medieval aristocracy, we find some improvement, but the leap to luxurious comfort is gradual. The wealthy might have possessed a more substantial bed frame, perhaps made of wood or even metal, offering some elevation from the cold floor. However, even these beds were often far from luxurious. Feathers, down, or wool, if available, provided a degree of cushioning, but these were often lumpy and uneven. The prevalence of bed bugs and other parasites persisted, albeit less pronounced for the privileged few who could afford better quality bedding and more frequent cleaning. The frames themselves were often simple designs, perhaps elaborately carved, but lacking the springs and sophisticated construction of their modern counterparts. The concept of individualized mattresses, tailored for specific body shapes and sleep preferences, was as alien to them as space travel. The evolution of bedding materials is a fascinating story in itself. Straw, readily available and inexpensive, remained the staple for centuries, reflecting the reality of limited resources. But gradually, alternative materials started to gain traction. Wool, for instance, was a valuable commodity, prized for its warmth and relative softness. Feathers, collected from domesticated birds, offered another option, especially for the more affluent. But the quality and consistency of these natural materials varied considerably, and their longevity was often limited. Cleaning and maintaining these beds was a chore, and the potential for infestation a constant worry. The lack of readily available and effective methods of cleaning and sanitizing bedding meant that issues of hygiene were pervasive, and many common diseases were linked to unclean sleeping arrangements. The shift from straw to more advanced materials was a gradual process, dictated by both economic factors and a growing, if slow, awareness of hygiene. The development of bed frames also reflects this slow progress. Early frames were nothing more than simple wooden structures, little more than an elevated platform to keep sleepers off the cold ground. These simple frames offered only the most rudimentary protection from the elements and the vermin that thrived in the unhygienic conditions of the time. Over time, however, the design and construction of bed frames became more sophisticated. Carved wood, ornate metalwork, and the incorporation of canopies for privacy and protection from drafts marked the transition towards more comfortable and luxurious designs. But these advancements were primarily reserved for the elite, showcasing the significant social disparities in comfort and well being during the era. The evolution of the bed frame mirrors the slow societal shifts towards a greater appreciation for comfort and well being. The arrival of springs marked a crucial turning point in the history of beds. The development of coil springs, initially used in upholstered furniture, revolutionized bed design. The ability to evenly distribute weight and provide consistent support dramatically enhanced comfort and alleviated the unevenness of feather and wool-filled mattresses. These early spring beds, however, were often stiff and less pliable than what we see today, a transition that came with the refinement of spring construction and material science. The 20th century witnessed an explosion of innovation in bed technology. The introduction of inner spring mattresses, latex foam, and later memory foam represented a paradigm shift in comfort and support. These materials provided tailored support and pressure relief, addressing specific ergonomic concerns and improving sleep quality. Advances in textile technology have also played a significant role, leading to the development of breathable, hypoallergenic fabrics that enhance hygiene and comfort. The current range of mattresses available today reflects the diversity of sleep preferences and the high level of sophistication that has been achieved in the industry. The evolution of the bed is not just a story of material innovation, it is also a story of our evolving understanding of sleep and its impact on health. Medieval societies, despite lacking scientific knowledge of sleep physiology, implicitly understood the importance of a resting space. Their practical solutions, though crude by today's standards, reflected a basic human need for comfort and recuperation. The progress we've made is astounding, not just in the technology involved, but in our deeper understanding of how a restful night's sleep contributes to overall health and well being. The evolution of the beds mirrors our own progress. A slow, incremental climb from basic survival needs to a pursuit of optimal comfort and wellness. From the simple straw pallet to the intelligently designed modern mattress, the journey reflects our enduring quest for a good night's sleep, a quest that spans centuries and continues to this day. The modern mattress industry is a testament to this ongoing quest. Marketing strategies skillfully tap into our desire for personalized comfort using advanced technologies and sophisticated materials to tailor sleeping surfaces to individual needs. The seemingly endless variety of mattress types, firmness levels, and added features, cooling gels, temperature regulation, built-in massage functions, highlights the level of sophistication we have attained in our pursuit of the perfect night's rest. This evolution from simple necessity to personalized indulgence speaks volumes about how far we have come in our understanding of sleep. The difference between a modern mattress and a medieval straw pallet underscores the immense progress we've made in understanding not only the comfort, but also the health implications of sleep. However, the irony of modern times is that despite our advanced technology and improved understanding of sleep, sleep disorders remain widespread. The pressures of modern life, work schedules, technology overuse, stress, and anxiety create new challenges to obtaining a restful night's sleep. We may have the perfect mattress, but the conditions for utilizing it optimally often escape us. This paradox underscores the importance of a holistic approach to sleep hygiene, encompassing not only the physical environment, but also the mental and emotional factors that play a significant role. It suggests that the quest for the perfect night's sleep is not just about the perfect mattress, but also about creating an environment conducive to rest and relaxation. In conclusion, the evolution of the bed is a microcosm of humanity's ongoing progress, a testament to our ingenuity and our relentless pursuit of comfort and well being. From the humble straw pallet of the medieval peasant to the technologically advanced smart beds of the 21st century, the journey reflects not just advancements in materials and technology, but also a growing awareness of the crucial role that sleep plays in our overall health. While the challenges of obtaining sufficient and quality sleep have evolved, the fundamental human need remains constant, binding us across time and technology. The story of the bed is a fascinating chronicle of our progress, a story told not just in materials and design, but in the very fabric of our lives. The quest continues, and with it, the constant evolution of the bed, a testament to our enduring pursuit of a good night's sleep. The transition from the rough hewn reality of medieval sleep to the meticulously engineered sleep environments of the modern world involves more than just the shift from straw to serta. It's a fascinating transformation in our relationship with sound, a journey from a cacophony of nocturnal noises to a carefully curated soundscape designed for optimal rest. Imagine, if you will, the auditory tapestry of a medieval peasant's slumber, the rhythmic snorts and bellows of livestock sharing the dwelling, the creaks and groans of a timber framed house settling under the weight of the night, the rustling of vermin in the straw, the distant barking of dogs, and the ever present murmur of human activity spilling over from neighboring homes. Sleep, as in such conditions, was rarely a silent affair. The soundscape of the medieval world was a far cry from the engineered quietude of a modern bedroom. Noise pollution, as we understand it today, wasn't a recognized concept, but the constant barrage of sounds undoubtedly impacted the quality and depth of sleep. The lack of soundproofing in homes meant that every sound, from the gentle patter of rain to the boisterous revelry of a nearby celebration, penetrated the sleeping chambers with unfiltered intensity. Unlike modern society's attempts to control sound, the medieval experience was an immersive auditory onslaught, a continuous and largely inescapable soundtrack to life, including sleep. For the medieval aristocracy, the story was only marginally different. While their homes might have been more substantial and better constructed, offering some degree of sound insulation, they were still far from soundproof. The thick stone walls of castles might have muffled some exterior noises, but the sounds within, the creaking of the castle itself, the rustling of servants moving through corridors, the clatter of distant armor, all contributed to a far from tranquil sleeping environment. Even the relative quiet of a grand bedroom offered little respite from the persistent hum of human activity within the castle walls. The concept of a quiet night was probably a rare luxury, more likely a dream than a reality. The transition to a quieter sleep environment began slowly, mirroring the gradual improvement in building techniques and a burgeoning awareness of hygiene and comfort. The evolution of building materials, the increased use of more substantial materials, and improved construction techniques gradually led to more soundproof homes. However, the reduction in noise was a byproduct of overall improvements in living standards, rather than a deliberate attempt to control the acoustic environment. The change, therefore, was incremental, uneven, and limited largely to the upper echelons of society. The quietude that we now take for granted was for the vast majority a distant aspiration. The development of sound reduction technologies marked a significant turning point. Double glazed windows, improved insulation, and the widespread use of quieter building materials gradually transformed the sleeping environment. The technological progress of the 20th and 21st centuries accelerated this trend, leading to homes where noise intrusion is significantly minimized. This reduction in environmental noise has had a profound impact on sleep quality, allowing for deeper, more restful sleep, unperturbed by the incessant intrusions that were the norm for centuries. The modern bedroom, in stark contrast to its medieval counterpart, frequently embodies a pursuit of deliberate quietude. We actively design our sleeping spaces to minimize noise. This is not merely a matter of comfort, but a reflection of a growing understanding of the detrimental impact of noise on sleep quality. From specially designed soundproof windows to noise-canceling technology in headphones and other appliances, we go to considerable lengths to cultivate a silent sanctuary for sleep. White noise machines, once a niche product, have become commonplace, offering a gentle, consistent auditory buffer against disruptive noises. Modern building codes often include stipulations about noise levels, reflecting a societal awareness of the importance of a quiet, sleeping environment. This shift towards a quieter sleep is not without its irony. While we have successfully reduced environmental noise pollution, we have created new sources of noise within our bedrooms, such as the ever-present hum of electronic devices, the subtle whir of air conditioners, and the sometimes relentless pings and notifications of smartphones. The quest for a tranquil soundscape remains an ongoing process, a battle between our engineered quietude and the persistent intrusions of modern technology. We've traded the cacophony of the medieval world for a more subtle, often self-imposed auditory challenge. The impact of noise reduction on sleep quality is undeniable. Studies consistently demonstrate a clear link between noise exposure and sleep disturbances. Noise can disrupt sleep cycles, leading to lighter sleep, increased awakenings, and a reduction in the restorative effects of sleep. The reduction of noise pollution, therefore, has contributed significantly to improvements in overall sleep quality and overall health. The silent sanctuary of the modern bedroom, despite the occasional technological interruption, represents a significant advance in the ongoing pursuit of a good night's sleep. Furthermore, the change isn't just a matter of the quantity of noise, but also its character. The sounds of the medieval world were generally natural: the wind, the animals, the creaks of the building. While unpleasant and disruptive, these were often predictable rhythms that the body over time may have adapted to, if only partially. Modern noise, however, is often sharp, unpredictable, and jarring. Car alarms, traffic, construction, distant sirens, a cacophony of artificial sounds. This jarring nature disrupts the natural sleep cycles far more efficiently than the more predictable noises of the past. The contrast between the auditory experiences of medieval and modern sleep underscores the remarkable progress we've made in creating environments conducive to rest. From the chaotic symphony of the medieval world to the carefully crafted silence of the modern bedroom, the journey reflects a growing awareness of the importance of sleep and a relentless pursuit of optimal sleep quality. The evolution of the soundscape of sleep is in itself a compelling chapter in the ongoing story of humanity's quest for a good night's rest. The silent victory, however, is a constant battle, a war against the ever evolving soundscapes of modern life, a war fought in the pursuit of tranquility and the ever elusive perfect night's sleep. The transition from the cacophony of medieval nights to the engineered quietude of the modern bedroom is mirrored by a parallel shift in our understanding of sleep itself. For centuries, sleep was shrouded in mystery, attributed to the whims of gods, the influence of spirits, or the machinations of malevolent forces. Sleepwalking was a visitation by demons, nightmares, the result of incubi and succubi, insomnia, a punishment from a vengeful deity. The medieval mind, steeped in superstition, lacked the scientific framework to comprehend the complex physiological processes underpinning sleep. Their explanations were woven from the fabric of their belief systems, offering little in the way of effective remedies beyond prayer, amulets, and the occasional herbal concoction of dubious efficacy. The Renaissance, with its burgeoning interest in observation and empirical evidence, laid the groundwork for a more scientific approach to the study of sleep. While the complete understanding remained elusive, the shift towards reason gradually chipped away at the edifice of supernatural explanations. Early anatomists dissecting the human brain began to glimpse the physical structures associated with consciousness and slumber, though their interpretations were often hampered by the limited tools and knowledge of their time. The 18th and 19th centuries witnessed a gradual accumulation of observations and experiments that slowly revealed the biological mechanisms of sleep. The invention of increasingly sophisticated instruments allowed researchers to peer into the previously uncharted territory of the sleeping brain. The development of the electroencephalogram, EEG, in the early 20th century marked a watershed moment. This remarkable device, capable of measuring the electrical activity of the brain, provided the first objective insights into the different stages of sleep. The discovery of distinct sleep stages, from the relatively light stage 1 to the deep restorative stage 3, and the REM, rapid eye movement sleep, characterized by vivid dreaming, revolutionized our understanding of this fundamental human process. The identification of REM sleep was particularly significant, challenging the prevailing notion that sleep was a uniform state of unconsciousness. The observation of rapid eye movements beneath closed eyelids, coupled with the rich tapestry of dreams reported by individuals awakened during REM sleep, shattered the monolithic conception of sleep and revealed its multifaceted nature. It established that sleep, far from being a passive state, was a complex and dynamic process involving distinct physiological and psychological phases. The burgeoning field of sleep science also shed light on the impact of sleep disorders. Insomnia, once viewed as a moral failing or divine retribution, was gradually recognized as a medical condition, albeit one whose underlying causes remained largely mysterious. The discovery of sleep apnea, characterized by repeated pauses in breathing during sleep, transformed the understanding of sleep disturbances, highlighting the intricate interplay between sleep and respiratory function. Similarly, the elucidation of narcolepsy, with its sudden attacks of sleepiness, further underscored the complex nature of sleep regulation. The mid 20th century saw the emergence of sleep medicine as a distinct specialty, bridging the gap between neuroscience, psychology, and clinical practice. Sleep clinics, equipped with advanced monitoring technologies, offered a new frontier in diagnosing and treating sleep disorders. Polysomnography, a comprehensive sleep study involving EEG, eye movement monitoring, and respiratory recordings, became a standard diagnostic tool. The development of effective treatments, such as CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure, machines for sleep apnea, and medications for insomnia, marked a turning point in managing sleep disturbances. The scientific investigation into dreams also witnessed remarkable progress. While the interpretation of dreams remained a subject of debate, drawing upon psychoanalysis, cognitive psychology, and neuroscience, the understanding of their neurological underpinnings advanced significantly. Neuroimaging techniques, such as functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, provided unprecedented insights into brain activity during dreaming, revealing the complex neural networks involved in the generation of these nocturnal narratives. The transition from the superstitious beliefs of the Middle Ages to the scientific understanding of sleep is a testament to human curiosity and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. The shift reflects a broader intellectual evolution, a move from explanations grounded in mythology and folklore to those rooted in empirical evidence and scientific investigation. However, the journey isn't complete. Despite the remarkable strides made in understanding sleep, numerous questions remain unanswered. The precise function of sleep, the enigmatic nature of dreams, and the intricate mechanisms underlying various sleep disorders continue to challenge scientists and researchers, promising a future of further discovery. The advancements in sleep science have also significantly impacted our approach to health and well being. The recognitions of sleep's crucial role in physical and mental health has led to a growing emphasis on sleep hygiene, encompassing practices aimed at improving sleep quality. These practices, including maintaining a regular sleep schedule, creating a conducive sleep environment, and minimizing exposure to screens before bedtime, reflect a societal awareness of the profound impact of sleep on overall health. Furthermore, the scientific understanding of sleep has revolutionized the treatment of various medical conditions. Sleep deprivation has been linked to a host of health problems, ranging from obesity and diabetes to cardiovascular disease and mental health disorders. As a result, improving sleep quality has become an essential component of preventative medicine and the management of chronic illnesses. The contrast between the medieval reliance on supernatural explanations for sleep disturbances and the modern scientific approach is stark. The shift reflects not merely a change in understanding, but also a broader transformation in our worldview, a movement from a reliance on faith and mysticism to a greater emphasis on reason and scientific inquiry. This intellectual revolution has had a profound impact on our approach to health, well being, and the fundamental human experience of sleep. The evolution of sleep medicine, from its humble beginnings in the realm of superstition and folklore to its current status as a sophisticated scientific discipline, is a remarkable journey. It is a testament to the power of human curiosity and the tireless efforts of scientists and researchers who have dedicated their lives to unraveling the mysteries of sleep. While we have made significant strides in understanding this fundamental human process, the journey is far from over. The exploration of the science of sleep continues, promising to further illuminate this enigmatic and essential aspect of the human experience. The path from straw to certa, from superstition to science, is a compelling narrative of progress, one marked by the enduring human quest to unravel the mysteries of our own existence and enhance the quality of our lives, one slumbering breath at a time. The ongoing quest to understand and improve sleep reminds us of the potent confluence between scientific advancement and the pursuit of a good night's rest, a pursuit as old as humanity itself. The transition from the rough-hewn pallets of yesteryear to the plush embrace of a modern Certa mattress reflects more than just technological advancement. It represents a profound shift in our societal perception of sleep itself. For centuries, sleep was purely a functional necessity, a brief respite from the relentless demands of survival. Comfort, in the context of sleep, was a negligible consideration, a luxury afforded only to the privileged few. The medieval peasant, exhausted from a day of back-breaking labor in the fields, found little solace in the quality of their straw mattress or the lack thereof. Sleep was simply the cessation of activity, a necessary biological function, no different than breathing or digestion. Their focus was not on optimizing the experience of sleep, but on simply achieving it, regardless of the circumstances. Imagine, if you will, the stark realities of a medieval sleeping chamber, a dimly lit room, often shared with family, livestock, and perhaps even unwelcome vermin. The air thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, damp earth, and perhaps the lingering aroma of a recent fire. The sounds of the night, the creak of the timbers, the rustling of animals, the distant howls of dogs, were a constant if unwelcome soundtrack to their slumber. Temperature regulation was a matter of luck and season, with freezing winters and sweltering summers offering little respite. Their bedding, often comprised of straw, rushes, or perhaps a thin layer of animal hides, offered minimal cushioning and warmth, prone to harboring pests and providing a less than hygienic sleeping surface. Illness was common, and sleeping arrangements were often a breeding ground for disease. In such a world, the concept of sleep hygiene would have seemed absurd, a whimsical notion devoid of practical relevance. The Renaissance, while ushering in a new era of intellectual and artistic flourishing, did little to revolutionize the everyday experience of sleep for the common person. While the wealthy could afford more elaborate beds and furnishings, the majority continued to endure the harsh realities of their sleep environments. The emphasis remained on functionality rather than comfort. Beds were still viewed as simple furniture, primarily intended for rest and recuperation, not for indulgence or self-indulgence. The emphasis on hygiene began to improve, albeit slowly. The belief in miasmas, or bad air, gradually gave way to a rudimentary understanding of disease transmission, encouraging the better ventilation of living spaces, including bedrooms. However, the concept of a luxurious sleep experience was still a distant dream for most. The 18th and 19th centuries saw the gradual rise of the middle class, and with it, a slow but perceptible shift in the understanding of sleep. While not yet reaching the levels of comfort we associate with modern sleeping arrangements, improvements in manufacturing and access to better materials led to an increase in the quality and comfort of beds. The development of sprung mattresses, though initially expensive, signaled a departure from the purely functional approach to sleeping. The concept of individualized sleep, one person, one bed, started to gain traction, gradually replacing the communal sleeping arrangements of earlier centuries. The Industrial Revolution fueled the mass production of furniture, including beds, making them more accessible to a wider segment of the population. Improved sanitation and better urban planning also contributed to a healthier sleeping environment. The advent of indoor plumbing and central heating brought about a significant improvement in living conditions. Better insulation and more sophisticated methods of temperature control started to make the bedroom a more regulated, consistent environment for sleep. The shift was gradual, but it marked a crucial transition. Sleep, while still a necessity, began to take on a slightly less utilitarian role. The 20th century ushered in an era of unprecedented affluence and innovation, dramatically altering the perception of sleep. The rise of the mass consumer market and the development of sophisticated manufacturing techniques transformed the humble bed into a center of comfort and personal indulgence. The invention of the modern mattress, with its layered foam and spring constructions, marked a significant leap forward. The development of synthetic materials, such as polyurethane foam, allowed for the creation of mattresses offering superior support, comfort, and durability. The industry's evolution from simple straw pallets to complex technological advancements showcases the shift from necessity to luxury. The bedding industry, once a niche market, exploded into a multi-billion-dollar business catering to a wide range of needs and preferences. The modern consumer is presented with a dizzying array of choices, from memory foam mattresses to adjustable bed bases, from luxurious Egyptian cotton sheets to temperature regulating blankets. Sleep, once a simple biological function, has become a major element of personal comfort and even a marketing focal point. This pursuit of comfort extends beyond the physical aspects of the bed itself. Modern homes often feature bedrooms specifically designed for optimal sleep, with features such as blackout curtains, noise canceling technology, and sophisticated climate control systems. The pursuit of the perfect sleep is not limited to the physical space, but also extends to the use of electronic devices, apps, and sleep aids which are commonly used to enhance the quality and length of our sleep. The evolution of the sleep environment, from the rudimentary sleeping arrangements of our ancestors to the meticulously designed spaces of today, is a compelling reflection of our changing attitudes towards rest, comfort, and self-care. This trend is not merely a manifestation of consumerism, but represents a deeper cultural shift. It's a recognition that sleep, far from being a mere physiological necessity, is an integral aspect of our overall well-being, demanding attention and investment. This journey from straw to serta, from necessity to luxury, mirrors the remarkable evolution of humanity itself. a journey from primal survival to the pursuit of a refined, comfortable existence, even in the seemingly mundane realm of sleep. The irony, of course, is that this relentless pursuit of optimal sleep has in some ways created a new set of anxieties. The plethora of sleep products and advice can be overwhelming, leaving many feeling stressed and anxious about the quality of their rest. The rise of insomnia as a common complaint in the modern world suggests that the constant pursuit of perfect sleep may be counterproductive, highlighting the complex interplay between our desire for comfort and the elusive nature of restful sleep itself. The pursuit of ultimate comfort may inadvertently create conditions that prevent achieving that very thing. Yet, despite the paradoxical challenges, the journey from straw to Serta is undeniably a testament to human ingenuity and our ever evolving understanding of ourselves. The shift in perception from a purely practical necessity to a desirable luxury reflects our progress as a species, a progression from the barest essentials towards a more refined and comfortable experience of life. It's a reminder that even something as fundamental as sleep has evolved alongside us, shaped by our technological advancements, our evolving cultural values, and our persistent quest for the good life, or at least a good night's sleep. The quest for ultimate comfort, however, remains a work in progress, a constant evolution mirroring our own endless pursuit of understanding and contentment. The transition from the rough straw pallet to the temperature controlled, noise canceling haven of the modern bedroom is, as we've seen, a journey spanning centuries. But this journey isn't just about the evolution of bedding, it's also a fascinating chronicle of how sleep deprivation, a universal human experience, has manifested itself differently across time. While the specifics have altered drastically, the underlying struggle for sufficient rest remains a constant thread in the human narrative. In the medieval world, sleep deprivation stemmed largely from practical, environmental factors. Imagine the peasant toiling in the fields from dawn till dusk, their body weary, their mind dulled by relentless physical exertion. Their sleep, when it finally arrived, was often fragmented and fitful. The communal sleeping arrangements, shared with family, livestock, and often vermin, offered little in the way of privacy or peace. Noise was a constant companion, the creaking of timbers, the rustling of animals, the cries of children, and the ever-present sounds of the night. Temperature regulation was non-existent, leading to discomfort and disrupted sleep in both summer's heat and winter's chill. Their rudimentary bedding, often little more than straw or rushes, offered meager comfort and scant protection from the cold or the pests that shared their sleeping space. Disease was rife, and inadequate sanitation added another layer of physical discomfort and distress to the already sleep-deprived populace. While the wealthy enjoyed slightly better conditions, even they were not immune to interruptions caused by lack of effective insulation, noisy environments, and the ever-present threat of illness. The causes of sleep deprivation, then, weren't merely a matter of insufficient hours. They were a direct result of the harsh realities of medieval life. A day's work often left the individual utterly exhausted, but the resulting sleep was far from restorative due to the less than ideal sleeping environment. There was no concept of sleep hygiene as we understand it today, no consideration of optimal sleep temperatures, noise reduction, or the impact of diet and exercise on sleep quality. Sleep was simply a necessary break from the demands of survival, a period of unconsciousness rather than a deliberate pursuit of restful rejuvenation. The consequences of this chronic sleep deprivation were largely accepted as a fact of life, a byproduct of their harsh living conditions and physical demands of their labor. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the causes of sleep deprivation have undergone a remarkable transformation. While the physical hardships of medieval life are largely absent for much of the world's population, we've replaced them with a different set of challenges. The demands of modern life, characterized by relentless schedules, constant connectivity, and pervasive stress, create a novel set of obstacles to achieving adequate sleep. The 24/7 nature of our globalized society blurs the lines between work and leisure, making it difficult to disconnect and unwind before bedtime. The ubiquitous presence of electronic devices, with their constant stream of notifications and stimulating blue light, further disrupts our natural sleep wake cycle. The stress of modern life, with its economic anxieties, social pressures, and relentless demands, plays a significant role in sleep deprivation. The anxieties of work deadlines, financial instability, and relationship issues can keep us tossing and turning long after we've switched off the lights. Furthermore, the ease of access to information and entertainment provided by technology often keeps us awake, extending our days and shortening our nights. This constant stimulation makes it difficult to transition to a relaxed state conducive to sleep. Even when we do manage to fall asleep, the pervasive noise pollution of modern cities, traffic, and ambient light frequently fragment our slumber. We have, in a sense, traded the physical hardships of our ancestors for a different type of adversity, the mental and emotional burden of modern life. The consequences of modern sleep deprivation, however, are no less significant. While the physical toll of chronic sleep loss in medieval times was interwoven with the hardships of poverty and disease, today's effects are often seen in isolation, allowing for a heightened awareness of these issues. Modern research clearly links chronic sleep deprivation to an increased risk of numerous health problems, including cardiovascular disease, obesity, diabetes, and depression. The impact on cognitive function is also significant, affecting memory, attention, and decision making. Chronic sleep deprivation diminishes productivity, increases error rates, and impacts overall well being. The contrast between medieval and modern sleep deprivation reveals the remarkable continuity in the human experience, as well as the stark differences in the conditions that shape it. In both eras, the consequences of insufficient sleep are profound, though the contexts are vastly different. In the Middle Ages, sleep deprivation was an inescapable consequence of harsh physical conditions, illness, and constant labor. Today, it is often a symptom of the intangible stresses and anxieties of modern life. The enduring challenge, then, lies not just in the quantification of sleep, but in the quality of that sleep. While we have made considerable technological advancements in creating more comfortable sleep environments, we've simultaneously created a culture that often actively works against achieving restorative rest. The relentless pursuit of productivity, the pressures of social media, and the constant barrage of digital stimulation conspire to keep many of us perpetually sleep deprived. This situation demands a new approach, one that recognizes the fundamental importance of sleep and prioritizes it within our daily routines. We need to actively cultivate a culture that values rest and prioritizes sleep hygiene. This means not only investing in comfortable beds and creating conducive sleep environments, but also actively managing stress, disconnecting from electronic devices before bed, and establishing regular sleep schedules. We need to consciously combat the modern pressures that steal away our sleep so that we, like our medieval ancestors, don't allow insufficient rest to undermine our health and overall well being. This might involve setting stricter boundaries between work and personal life, prioritizing downtime, and developing stress management techniques. The quest for optimal sleep, therefore, becomes a quest for a more balanced and sustainable approach to modern life, a harmonious synthesis of productivity and restorative rest. Our challenge now is not simply to escape the physical hardships of our ancestors, but to manage the more subtle and insidious challenges of our own time, to build a world where a good night's sleep is not a luxury, but a fundamental right and a cornerstone of a healthy life. The irony is that while we have moved from straw to certa, we still face the age old struggle of securing that elusive, restorative rest. And perhaps that's a tale worth telling in itself.